I wonder who they are. I wonder what's their story.
But Samuel Johns went beyond wondering. He created the Forget Me Not Facebook page to make sure the homeless are not forgotten. From Anchorage to Juneau, we'll hear from those who are on the front lines of keeping Alaskans off the streets, and meals that are outside the box, serving up subsistence for elders in Kotzebue.
Sponsorship for Frontiers with Rhonda McBride is provided by Kupik Corporation and Spenard Builders Supply. Alaska, where there are old triumphs, but also new frontiers, with challenges as great as the state itself, but a belief the best is yet to come, bringing you the faces, the places, and the spirit of the last frontier. This is Frontiers with Rhonda McBride.
Welcome to Frontiers, especially those of you who are joining us in two of our new time slots, 4:30 Sunday afternoon and at 8:30 on Thursday night. In this show, we'll tackle one of Alaska's most challenging frontiers, the homeless. When you hear the phrase, forget me not, the state flower is probably what comes to mind, but it's also the name of a Facebook page created by an Alaska Native rap artist to give the homeless a voice.
Forget me not, even if I'm over here sleeping on the block.
Samuel Johns raps towards his friend Andre Black wrote.
That was good. That was
Yeah.
good. That was
A
really
tie-in
good.
to the Forget Me Not Facebook page.
Forget me not.
God was handing blessings out. My family must have got left out, cause mom and dad killed at an early age. Liquor led my uncle to an early grave.
A story straight from the streets of Anchorage.
It's a good feeling when you know you're empowering people that don't really have a voice, especially the homeless community. We need to express our unconditional love for people.
Even if they're hard to love.
When you pull up, your main focus is over here. It's not behind you, you know?
When Samuel Johns shops at Walmart, he checks on the homeless.
I remember you, Harry. Do you remember me?
Like some of the
Yeah.
others hanging out in the back of the parking lot, Harry is drunk
See? You want to take a picture of that?
and determined to show us his artificial eye.
How did you lose your eye?
Oh, I like to fight.
Harry doesn't see himself as homeless, but instead a fisherman who happens to be hungry.
Can you buy some food?
Yeah, I can't give you money, but I can definitely buy you some food.
It's a good thing Walmart is a quick place to buy food, because sometimes the homeless move on before Samuel can bring them their food. But Harry and his wife are waiting.
Well, thank you, Harry.
Hey.
I got your information, and you said your message was to just pray for your kids.
Yeah, that's it.
All right, well, I'll do that, man, and I will pray for your kids.
Started this in June, and we're close to almost 9,000 members.
Who would have thought? Facebook putting a face on homelessness.
You see a lot of family members posting pictures of their loved ones here.
Strangers on the streets of Anchorage, yet still somebody's brother, somebody's mother. And from the post here, you can tell somebody's worried.
So this is Robert from Nome, and his message back to his family is, I hope your dreams come true.
A few, with help from Forget Me Not, have found their way home. Johnny was one of the first Samuel helped to reunite with his family.
If you look at his messages, it just says, happiness is a gift of life, God bless.
Samuel asked Emily to volunteer to manage Forget Me Not as a nonprofit so people can contribute if they want.
He made a post asking for an Inupiaq drum.
To be given to Beans Cafe so clients could connect to their culture. The very next day, a drum was donated.
He really inspired me to lead with my heart and just be a better person today than I was yesterday.
Emily hopes the Facebook page reaches not only hearts, but also minds.
Why is there more than 75% of the population Alaska Native, the homeless population? And inspiring other people to ask those questions.
What's your name? Samuel.
There's hurt there, and when you have intergenerational trauma, you need to have intergenerational healing.
I'm actually going to try and have a place for the homeless people to come and do cultural events together.
Samuel believes in the power of culture and caring.
Like this one saying that I always tell my daughter, even if you're broke, you can always give hope.
Give her some too.
That's why random acts of kindness are so important.
That smells amazing.
A surprise gift of salmon strips from a man who told us he doesn't do Facebook, so he never heard of the Forget-Me-Not project.
There was this guy, he asked me for money, and it was like 10:30 in the morning, and he was drunk.
Yeah.
And it was down the road that way a ways. And I said, no, I don't have any money, but I have something better. Come with me. And so
it's very inspirational. Seeing a non-native pull up out of the blue and give dried fish to some homeless Alaska natives. And seeing that happen, you know what, it gave me chills.
Samuel Johns believes this is God's reassurance that he's on the right path and that he's not alone.
Oh, cool, man.
This picture wound up on Forget-Me-Not to inspire others to find their own way to give. So how did all of this get started? At Beans Cafe, the beat of the drum connects to the beat of the heart. And as Samuel shared his music, he realized he's not all that different from those here.
I wasted a lot of years just drinking a lot, you know, not really doing much with my life.
A memorial service for his grandfather, Harry Johns Sr., a revered Otna chief, was a wake-up call.
It wasn't like an ordinary eulogy, you know? It was like a adventure. It was like a really cool adventure. And I felt like kind of ashamed.
Forget-Me-Not.
Yeah, exactly.
But today, Samuel Johns is on an adventure he can be proud of. Brooklyn, Samuel's baby, had a lot to do with it. Normally, he travels a lot, but before her birth, he took a break from his work and wanted a project close to home to fill the void. And so, a Facebook page was born.
I don't want to be people applauding to me and saying, Sam, you're doing a great job. I want people to say, Sam, I'm here to help you. I'd rather have this than this. You know what I mean?
Forget me not.
The sound engineer says he likes projects that take him out of his comfort zone.
Grateful when it's hot, though I'm here when it's not, though I don't gotta lie.
And the message, whatever the medium, asks us to do the same.
Forget me not, even if I'm over here sleeping on the block.
And Samuel Johns' adventures continue on. He has been asked to take the stage at the Alaska Federation of Natives Convention next month. And he was also invited to greet President Obama when he arrived in Anchorage. Here he is waiting in line. Samuel Johns happened to be wearing his late grandfather's vest when he shook the president's hand. Up next, filling a growing need, giving our children enough to eat, one way to break the cycle of homelessness. And we'll hear about the challenges of life on the streets in Juneau. The number of hungry children in the Anchorage area is on the rise. Studies show 1 in 5 children locally don't know where their next meal will come from. A local program is working to combat that problem.
I have more energy from eating. It's a break in school, so I'm not doing school all day, every day.
Children gave their personal testimonies about hunger in this video created to raise awareness about Children's Lunchbox, a program that provides meals for thousands of kids throughout the city.
We find that kids who come to school who are not hungry are better focused, have less behavior problems, and get sick less often, so they miss less school, which means that they can learn more, which is what we want. We want a very healthy and educated future for Alaska.
Now joining us now to talk more about these issues, we have Lisa Souter, who is Executive Director of Beans Cafe and the Children's Lunchbox Program. And joining us from our sister station, KTVA in Juneau, we have Maria Lovishuk, who is Director of the Glory Hole, which is a combination shelter and a meal provider for the homeless. But I want to go to you first, Lisa. We just spent time looking at the Forget Me Not program that it seems like it's a ball of fire just going and going.
It's really wonderful. It's so great to see volunteers in the community seeing an issue, finding a way to address it, and making a difference.
But are you surprised that something like this, just posting photos of missing homeless people or just getting a greeting up on the web makes such a difference?
I think it's just such a wonderful way to harness the power of social media and to connect people. You know, even in this digital age, people still want that connection with friends, with relatives, with loved ones. And I think that's one of the things that social media is really good at doing for us.
Well, one of the things Samuel Johns has said is that he's got people wanting to go volunteer, go to Beans, perform for the homeless.
It makes such a difference. You know, the whole mood at the cafe can be lifted when a group comes down, when Samuel comes down and drums with other clients, when people come down and dance. And, you know, I remember over the winter when Samuel and some other folks were down, and it almost was like a name that tune when you'd have people coming up from different villages and engaging with Samuel and kind of trying to explain the songs that they wanted and teaching him. And it was just wonderful to see.
And one of the surprising things is that you actually serve more meals to children than adults.
Yes, most people don't realize that in addition to Beans Cafe, which has been serving the community since 1979, we have a child nutrition program that is operated both school year meals, summer meals, and a weekend food program.
So why is this so important?
I think it's really our preventative arm. If we can keep children nourished, have them understand that the entire community is invested in their success, make sure that they graduate and have the best ability to work hard in school every day, that they'll be successful adults. You know, no child ever dreams of growing up to be a homeless adult.
And no child should have to worry about where their next meal is coming from.
No, it's very hard to focus on, did you do your homework, did you study for that math test, if you didn't have dinner and you don't know what you're going to eat over the weekend.
Well, let's take a look at some numbers now. We have quite a few kids in the Anchorage School District, 21,000 that are eligible for free or reduced meals. Is that number growing?
It varies from year to year depending on some of the criteria that's used. Also, you know, they've opened up some of the schools to community eligibility where every child in the school can receive a free meal, and it takes away the stigma of being on a reduced meal program for kids.
Well, you serve a lot of meals when you look at the numbers. I mean,
We do, you know, we do snacks, we do meals, depending on the program. What we really do is we provide the nutritional component. The mission is to feed hungry children in safe community settings. So we work with Boys and Girls Clubs, YMCA, Campfire, all those types of programs. And we know that if kids are more engaged and they're in a healthy, safe environment, they're going to do better in school. And we want to provide that nutritional component for our partners.
So we see intergenerational homelessness here in Anchorage, more of it. Do you think that the kids are the key to checking that?
I think we have to start there, and we have to make a difference with those children and try and cut it off at the pass, so to speak.
Well, I want to, at this point, go to Maria Lovishuk in Juneau. How big of a problem is intergenerational homelessness, Maria?
I think it's a huge problem. We see parents, children, often grandparents who are patrons, definitely siblings, and it's heartbreaking to see families that are suffering from homelessness and are likely to continue to suffer from homelessness unless an intervention takes place.
So how is homelessness passed on from generation to generation? Some of the habits, some of the mentality, Maria?
I think there are various factors at play. I think FAS is certainly one of the factors.
Fetal alcohol syndrome?
Fetal alcohol syndrome disorder. I think things like not having stable housing and then growing up without stable housing, growing up without enough nutrition, trauma, and then basic stress of living on the street all contribute to continued homelessness throughout generations.
Well, you live in a small town, so as opposed to Anchorage, it's probably a little bit easier to see what's really going on, connecting the dots.
It is a little bit easier. Also, Juneau, I think, serves as a regional hub. And so a lot of the folks we see in our facility come from outlying villages as well. And so that also is a very heartbreaking to see.
Well, one of the things, though, that is positive, and we're getting a look here at your rooftop garden where some of your clients come and work and raise these plants. How has that made a difference for the Glory Hole?
It's made a huge difference. It really supplements our spring and summer meal programs with very nutritious, very fresh organic vegetables. And it also really provides people with an opportunity to do something that's very meaningful, something that takes them out of the trauma with depression, the stress of being homeless, and provides them with an opportunity to do something very productive and feel very good about themselves. Somebody came up to me the other day with a huge zucchini that he grew and said, "Maria, we're farmers." And so that's a really, I think, good way to look at yourself as opposed to, "Oh, I'm a homeless person."
We don't have enough of those success stories, but the stress must go up when winter approaches. You are both a meal provider and a shelter. What do you do? Do you have enough beds?
We have 40 beds, and in the winter, we definitely have more people than beds. Last winter, we routinely had as many as 59 people in our 40-bed facility.
So what do you do when you have this overflow? Where do you put these folks?
We have cots and we have mats on the floors, and so we never turn anybody away, but people certainly have to, sleep in conditions that are not great in any way.
Well, I want to turn to Lisa here. What is our bed situation in Anchorage?
It's also limited, and we know that there are certain people that either can't or won't stay in the shelters that are available. We've identified some of those folks that we're most concerned about for the winter coming up. Many of them are disabled adults that are either wheelchair bound or have a walker, and a lot of times due to different regulations and codes, they can't stay in a shelter. And it's very scary. So we're working diligently with our partners to try and find some housing solution and case management for these folks.
Well, so far we've had quite a few deaths this year.
We've had an alarming number of deaths.
In the summer?
In the summer, and that's why we're working so hard right now to identify those who are most vulnerable before winter sets in.
So what do you think the community should do? What are the resources if you have beds overflowing?
It's, it takes time to bring new housing online, and we know in Anchorage and throughout the state, in Juneau and many other places, that housing is a huge issue, and it's at all levels. It's at, supportive housing, it's housing first models, it's low-income housing, it's even moderate-priced housing. It's very difficult to find suitable housing in Alaska, and especially if you have a criminal background, if you have a substance abuse issue, if you have a spotty employment record, landlords, frankly, can be quite selective because there's not much space available.
Well, I know that every time I go to the Glory Hole, I can see that Maria is just overflowing with work, stacks of papers. Maria, why do you stay in this business of helping the homeless?
I think it's a really meaningful job for me. It's very nice to be able to do something concrete every day and something that really helps to meet the most essential and basic of needs, which is food and housing.
Lisa, I know that it's tough every day going there and to Bean's Cafe and just seeing such need, people sleeping in the street outside Bean's Cafe. What keeps you going?
It's the success stories of the clients. I had a client come up yesterday and hug me and tell me she's been sober for 11 months. And she was crying. And, it's those moments that really reinforce that what we're doing makes a difference. And I always tell the staff, if we can help one person today, we've done our job.
One person, and all of us may be taking a little chunk of the load. Mm-hmm. All right, well, I want to thank both of you for being with us. Maria Lovischuk in Juneau from KTVA and Lisa Sauter, who is with Bean's Cafe. Well, we have a new program to tell you about, a program to nourish the soul. We'll tell you why a simple meal of muskox stew was a huge cause for celebration in Kotzebue. Kotzebue is the first community in Alaska to open a traditional foods processing facility. It's called Sigaluk, Inupiat for the traditional underground food caches in the permafrost. KTVA's Emily Carlson takes us to Kotzebue, where keeping the subsistence culture alive means both innovation and adapting to change.
Standing on the shores of the land he grew up on, Cyrus Harris worries about the future and what will happen to his 26-year-old son, Levi.
He grew up out in the country hunting and fishing, so this is what he do best.
Cyrus taught Levi everything he knows. He's been subsistence hunting for decades. But lately, Cyrus has noticed some troublesome changes. Melting sea ice, making seal hunting more difficult.
This spring we had like a 3-day time frame practically for decent ook hunting. We normally would have 2 weeks.
For Cyrus, diet isn't just about food. It's about tradition, identity. Hunting, a way of life his people have practiced for thousands of years. A part of the Inupiat culture he's determined to keep alive.
What I do is I examine what's coming in.
Here at the Manilik Association's processing center, Cyrus is a gatekeeper of sorts. He decides if the meat hunters bring him is good enough to eat. This leg is from a muskox, killed after a hunter says it charged him.
It looked like I'm going to have to turn this down.
It's no good. But Cyrus did accept the rest of the animal, about 200 pounds of meat he butchered and cured.
Whatever we don't make into a roast or process here will go in the freezer.
Where next door, these white packages contain salmon caught during the summer season.
They can easily be processed during the wintertime on a slow day.
It's the result of a decades-long effort. Before, there were no regulations on how to take in meat like muskox or seal and how to process it and serve it.
It was a dramatic change for them to come into a long-term care facility and not able to have their traditional foods.
Today, this muskox stew is the first subsistence meal ever served at an Alaskan nursing home.
Today is a historic moment.
Cyrus is not only keeping his culture alive for elders here in Kotzebue, but ensuring the next generation of hunters, like son Levi, have a way to keep traditions alive for him as well. For Frontiers, I'm Emily Carlson.
From Kotzebue to Kaktovik, where the whaling season is underway and where one teacher incorporates the tradition into the school day, Flora Rexberg draws all of her teaching materials by hand, and this one shows the kids the tools used to hunt the whale. Flora also has drawings to give children a combined Inupiat language and science lesson with the names for the parts of the whale in Inupiat. Well, we have comments to share from last week's show, which featured several alternative energy projects around the state. Shayna Gray posted this on Facebook. Hydropower is the most efficient power source for villages, but the most inexpensive and unlikely to secure because of environmental regulations. Well, we always welcome your feedback, and you can contact us through the Frontiers section of KTVA.com. It's now time to wrap up this week's conversation. We want to thank you for being with us as we looked at one of Alaska's most challenging frontiers, homelessness. Be sure to check out the Forget Me Not Facebook page and let us know what you think. We'll see you next week, and as we like to say on this program, may you find your own frontier.